So we're here with Antoinette Bruno from Star Chefs. She is the CEO and editor-in-chief of Star Chefs, which is hosting this third Congress. Antoinette, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Delighted. A fantastic Congress so far. Could you tell us a little bit about how Star Chefs got going and what Star Chefs is?
Sure. I'm actually not the founder. Patty Graney, Phil Suarez, Bob Giraldi, and Fern Berman are the original founders of Star Chefs.
Mm-hmm.
It was started in 1995 as it was really Patty's baby. Patty and Bob ran a company called Giraldi Suarez, which
Mm-hmm.
Phil Suarez was also a partner of. And it was basically a restaurant group and a creative agency.
Okay.
And Star Chefs started as the new media arm of Giraldi Suarez. And since they owned lots of restaurants for, I think, almost 20 years, and they have this creative agency, it was a natural extension.
Sure.
Bob Giraldi was famous for Miller Lite tastes great, less filling, the softer side of Sears. You name the very big ad campaigns. He worked on the Pepsi generation. He saw athletes as prime people to put on TV in commercials. He was the first one to put an athlete on TV in the Miller Lite commercial. He was the first one to put a musician on TV, which was Michael Jackson in the Pepsi commercial.
Right.
And when it was in the 90s, he said it's now time for chefs. And that's how Star Chefs was born.
Okay, so kind of at the root of this Star Chef movement.
Before anybody even thought about chefs' names. Food TV did start in '93, but people still weren't. I mean, they had less than 3 million viewers when
Right.
Star Chefs began, and it was really chefs were the whole concept of a celebrity chef or a well-known chef was really in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
And we are 13 years old today. I met Patty, Bob, Phil, and Fern. Actually, in the very early days of Star Chefs, I helped Patty write one of her early business plans,
Mm-hmm.
and then a few years later, she came back to me and asked me to raise the money to get the company sort of to the next level. And I said, well, if I'm going to do that, I'd actually like to run the company. And then she eventually came back to me and said, okay, that's not a bad idea. You love food. You trained as a chef. You have a Wall Street background. So you could probably, pull this all together. And
Right.
I came on board officially in the summer of 1995, 4th of July.
Okay.
And have been running the company since. It's 9 years. It's been a long and wild ride. We rode the internet up,
back
and
down.
we rode it back down, and then we rode it, and then we built our company since then.
Right.
We had to survive both the internet fallout and 9/11 in New York when basically
The restaurant business froze up for a while.
completely. Our sole revenue at that time was job finder revenue.
Uh-huh.
And when 9/11 happened, basically, not only did no one hire anyone, all they did was lay everybody off.
Yeah.
So we had no revenue for 3 straight months. It was a very tough time in our history. But we survived it. We pruned our staff back,
Mm-hmm.
and we persevered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've made smart decisions and have taken, and we've been opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
In 2002, we began our Rising Star Awards.
Mm-hmm.
We announced our first 2 cities in 2002. We didn't have our first gala until May of 2003, which was
Mm-hmm.
Boston.
Right.
That was our very first Rising Stars, and that's, I think, the root of our success. We have believed since the beginning that if you make relationships with chefs before anybody knows who they are, and if you're good at picking who's going to be a great chef, which is harder than it might seem.
Right.
In the beginning, it was pretty easy to cherry pick the top, but now at Rising Stars is in its 6th year. It's a lot harder to
You're
go
digging
into a
deeper,
city,
yeah.
right? You're digging a lot deeper, and you're constantly finding, sort of the next group, the next generation. I mean, we are literally, since the beginning of Rising Stars, one full generation almost of cooks.
Right.
Ones that when we started Rising Stars and we went through the kitchens they were in, they were line cooks, where they were
They weren't quite
garde-mangers.
chefs yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And you were saying that getting that new generation in and highlighting them.
Yes, exactly.
Provides...
I lost my, sorry about that. Getting this generation and first of all, identifying them, building a relationship with them, honoring them with our Rising Star Awards. We're basically, sort of betting on a bunch of horses in a horse race. And we see it as our job to give them the tools to succeed as best as they can be,
right.
to be the best that they can be. And that's what Star Chefs is all about. I mean, we give chefs the tools to succeed. We want them, we've chosen them, we want them to succeed.
Right.
So we will do whatever we can to help them, realize their dreams.
So can you give us some, for instances, of what sort of tools, aside from, say, the highlighting of them through awards and these
Rising
congresses?
Stars is clearly the first.
Yep.
When we go into a local market, we're not looking for the Daniel Blues or the Bobby Flays in that city. We're looking for the next generation.
Right.
So we're looking for chefs that a lot of people don't know of. And people in New York may know some of the young chefs because publications like Time Out and New York Magazine focus a little bit on them. But you don't see that a lot around the country. So when we go in and eat our way through a city, which is literally how we do it.
I don't know how you keep your slender figure doing that.
Thank you. We arrive on a Monday morning. We do 5 tastings a day.
Right.
And we do 5 days in a row. Some tasting trips are longer. I've done 10 and 15-day tasting trips before, which kind of kill you. 5 now is my limit. So we do 25, 30 chefs a week, basically.
Oh my gosh.
And each chef does 5 courses, whether it's a chef, a pastry chef, a sommelier, and you may have five savory dishes, and then you have 5 wines.
Right. They have to lay it out in 5s for you.
Everything's in 5s. We tried to do 3s in the beginning. We did 3s, and it's not enough to tell.
Yeah.
So we do 5 courses. We ask for tasting portions, and they know we're coming. We have an appointment. We're not restaurant critics.
Right.
We're not there for a chef not to succeed. We want them to succeed. Our goal is not to intimidate or to catch them. That's
right.
not our goal.
Right.
We want them to succeed, and we give them every chance to. We let them pick the time we come. They can have us during service, off service.
Sure.
We're looking for what they excel at so that we can write about it so that other chefs can learn from them. So you asked about the tools.
Right.
So one of the biggest tools that we give our readers and our chefs is that we go and we catalog or document everything that we find and see.
Okay.
So we find great plating, we find a great technique, we find a new and unusual ingredient or a new way to use a regular everyday ingredient. Then we write about that and we publish that on Star Chefs.
So it really is a resource for the professionals to see
Completely.
what are the trends in the market, what's going on, what are the micro trends, the innovations that people are coming up with.
And we're not like pretending we have a crystal ball and saying this is what we predict. We're actually documenting what we see around the country.
Right.
And then we pull all that together and we have something called a tasting database. We record 5 things about every dish. We record its presentation, its creativity, its taste, its execution, and then the 5th thing we record is a photo of it.
Okay. So.
And actually, there's a 6th thing because we record if it's been paired with something and what the pairing tastes like.
Okay,
whether
fantastic.
it was a good pair or a bad pair.
So people are getting a very in-depth sense of what these new rising chefs are doing through this resource.
And we also share that information if the chef we're tasting with wants to know. So if they ask us for feedback, we will share it.
Right.
It's our opinion.
Right.
But we're happy to share it. And our opinion is from seeing chefs nonstop. I go on tasting trips every other week, all year long.
We haven't seen you as a judge yet on Iron Chef. Why hasn't that happened yet?
I actually was a judge.
Oh.
I was a judge last June, but the reason you said that is because you haven't seen it air yet.
Okay.
So.
Man, I thought I had blown the entire interview.
Yeah, it just hasn't aired yet. So.
Okay, fantastic. How fun was that?
It was great, and I had some of my rising stars compete. The whole team that I actually am not allowed to talk about.
You're not allowed to talk about just it. You'll have to stay tuned. Okay.
But it was fun for me.
I'm sure. You're like, I do this every day. Bring it on, right? You're like, let's see. Well, at the 3rd annual Congress, because this is your 3rd,
yes.
right? I just want to talk a little bit about the theme that you chose because it's near and dear to our hearts. The theme of a kitchen without boundaries, the responsibility of the chef. Did I phrase that correctly?
Yes, the responsibility of a chef. Every year we come up with a theme to sort of be a focal point around the Congress.
Yeah.
Our very first one, the theme was kind of chosen for us because of the location that we had the Congress in. We had the first annual Congress at Covenant House, and Covenant House is a home for wayward teens, and to offer them the ability to get back into society, to get new skills, to be retrained.
Right.
And I thought, wow, what's our biggest issue in the restaurant industry? It's labor.
Yeah.
So that's a great fit for chefs and for restaurants. So we took that on as our theme, retraining. Bringing people into our industry because this is an industry that has always had a shortage of labor and tons of turnover. So that was our theme year one. Our theme year two was something that was near and dear to my heart personally, which was the childhood obesity problem in this country. Well, actually, our official theme was the school lunch program.
Okay.
And I had fought for a couple of years in my children's school because I thought the school lunch was terrible. And not just taste, it's about health. It's about stuffing kids full of unnecessary calories with fried food that is not have any kind of health benefits whatsoever. Right. And I was appalled by what my children were eating, and I thought that I worked with other moms, and we organized ourselves into a school lunch committee. And this was a private school.
Really?
And you were spending a lot of money, and the lunch was really
marginal
at best. And we worked to get healthy lunch in school. And then I started to think about it. Well, if it's bad at my school and I'm paying a lot of money for it,
can you imagine
what it's like in the public schools? And so then I actually visited with a couple of chefs. I actually visited some public schools and checked out what was going on in the lunch. And I thought, oh God, if I thought what my kids had was bad, this is just unbelievable. Right. They don't even have cooking equipment. They don't have ranges, there's no ovens, there's, it's all pre-processed prepared foods. It's actually awful. So last year that was our theme, and we had programming all around it to teach people about, to alert them to the problem. Do you know over 60% of children in the United States of America are more than 25% overweight?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's a frightening statistic.
Oh, well, it's an epidemic.
And it's a total epidemic. And so we made that our focus, and we brought in chefs who would share, which again is community. Mm-hmm. How do you get involved? How do you change what's happening? How do you step in and say, okay, how do we work with the local school districts where I live, where my restaurant is, and how do we get involved? How do we teach kids about health? How do we teach them how to eat properly? Mm-hmm. How do we not, have them think that, asparagus or broccoli comes from Green Giant and not from a farm? But I'm serious, right?
Sure.
It's, it just, anyway, it was something, a personal thing near and dear to my heart. So then at the end of the Congress, we're like, what's our theme for this year? Back to your question. Yeah. And you've done two sort of wow themes, right? And what follows that? Right. And it kind of sort of all came together because I wanted the theme to be around the big green movement going on, but I didn't want to label the Congress as being green because I didn't want people to be afraid to come.
Right.
And so we debated it a lot in our office, Will and Heather and everybody, and we're like, okay, but if we label ourselves green, first of all, there's lots of people just doing that, and that's not enough. So, and then some people in my office debated, well, is it the responsibility of a chef to be green or for their restaurant to be green? And then I thought, that's it.
That's the key word.
That's the key word. What is the responsibility of a chef? Because I was talking to one chef in Las Vegas, a chef who's one of my rising stars, no less, who is the executive chef of a major Las Vegas restaurant who has Chilean sea bass on his menu. And in an interview with him, I said to him, why do you have this on your menu? You know that it's an endangered fish. And he said, it's my largest selling dish. And I said, that's not good enough. I'm sorry, but you're supposed to be a leader. I picked you as a right. We picked
I can't
you.
believe that
StarChefs
Rick
picked
Moonen
you.
didn't come out of his restaurant in Vegas and go after the guy with a net.
shotgun, right? But anyway, and I thought to myself, it needs to be clear that every chef has a responsibility. It's not up to me to tell you as a chef what your responsibility is. You have to answer that question.
Right.
But we need to raise the topic.
Mhm.
What is the responsibility of a chef? What does it mean? So it's not just about being green or sustainable. That is certainly one tenet, but taking part in your community, like the school lunch thing, like mentoring, like being proactive in what's going on in your local community. So that, community was the second, and mentoring is really also sort of part of that community, and that's teaching the next generation, being involved in your local culinary schools, having stages in your restaurant. That's all really important. So that's how the theme developed.
Fantastic. And we've heard, through the interviews that we've done, chefs like Daniel Boulou talking about his mentoring, and clearly he's found that all of his good mentoring has led to a very stable staff, both at his mainstay restaurant, but also at the various restaurants that he's opened. So not only has his sense of responsibility translated into something good for the people that he works for, but it's sort of given back to him in that it's been commercially a very good thing for him.
Right.
So, and obviously we've touched with Rick and a number of other folks on the topic of, as you mentioned, the whole issue of sourcing products and what are the choices that a chef makes in that sourcing. So,
and how it affects everything from the people that work for the chef, that work in the kitchen, that work in the restaurant, to the actual diner.
Yep.
The message they send by what they put on their menu.
Sure. And because of an organization like StarChefs, which has brought the world of chefs into the stratosphere of celebrity, the examples that these people are putting forward, they
We're
can't
not
take
about celebrity, though.
No, okay.
We're about the working chef.
All right, the working chef, but you cannot deny that people have been lining up to fill that big area of your seating area watch the auditorium, to watch Heston Blumenthal, to watch Morimoto, and so forth.
But those are both real chefs.
They are real chefs.
Okay, Morimoto may be on television, but he actually is in his
I
restaurant
agree.
cooking. And the kind of chefs we do invite here at the Congress are chefs that we feel have something to share with another chef.
Yes.
We don't invite chefs who we don't think are actually participating in their restaurants or that don't have restaurants.
Right.
That's really important to us because we are a magazine about working chefs.
Right.
And we want to give chefs the tools to succeed. You have to have something to share, a technique, and you have to have something that you're passionate about that you want to share with other people.
Exactly. And I guess the point I was trying to make is that because the public has taken such an interest in their publications such as yours and others that are doing such a good job now of representing what working chefs are doing, it's no longer an issue of whether people are going to react to these chefs or not. People are going to react to them, and they need to consider what sort of examples they're putting forward. So it's fantastic that this Congress is focusing on sort of looking inward and sorting out what the various responsibilities of today's working chef are. I want to ask you a few questions about a survey that you did recently.
Yes.
And we were just on the topic of green. And I think it's green is a term that's being thrown around quite liberally, but your survey had a response level of 80% roughly of chefs saying that they are taking steps to become more green in their kitchens, in their workplaces. Are you able to sort of address some of the major themes that you've heard them talk about?
Sure. We actually asked them, what steps are you taking to be a greener restaurant? The first question says, are you taking steps?
Gotcha.
And then if you answered yes, then the next question gave you a list of things and asked you what steps you're taking.
Right.
And 80% of the people, the respondents to the survey, did answer, yes, we are taking steps to be a greener restaurant. And then they articulated those steps in recycling efforts, in controlling waste, in using green cleaning products, and recycling fryer oil were all steps that were pointed out by our respondents as steps they were taking to become a greener restaurant.
Fantastic. And this is I mean, it's now becoming really widespread, according.
I think people are finally getting that if we don't care, if each person doesn't care, then as a whole, as a community, we're not caring.
Right.
And if we're not caring, that's why we're in the oil crisis that we're in. That's why we have global warming. That's why we don't have an ozone layer, because for years people said, well, not me, let somebody else care.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our nation as a whole it's finally dawning on us that, hey, we have to care.
Right. It's a call to arms now.
It's unfortunate that it took 30 years for people to care.
Yeah. Well, not to take up too much of your time, because
Sure.
you are running this whole thing, and it is a very large Congress.
Well, I have a great team. I have a great staff. I have a great Congress director, Renata.
Okay, well then let's just keep talking about whatever you want to talk
Great
about.
marketing team.
Great success so far. We've got a day and a half to go. Are you thinking about the theme for next year yet?
You know, I had that conversation at dinner last night, and I have not talked to my team, so this is not the theme. But I did actually ask the people that were the presenters that were sitting at my table and the sponsors that were sitting at my table for the welcome dinner last night, and I said, I was asked this question, and I'm going to ask this question to all of you, and then we're gonna chat about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the question I posed to everybody at my table is, what is American cuisine?
There you go.
So I asked the question, and we went around the table, and I had 8 people sitting at my table. And it was interesting. Everybody had a completely different idea of what American cuisine is, and we had a lot of debates about it. This year at the Congress, we started a group of awards that we're going to present tomorrow. They're called the Innovator Awards. And one of the Innovator Awards is the contribution to American cuisine.
Okay.
And the reason I brought the question up at my table is that we've had the question in our office and on our board meetings. What is American cuisine? Who is eligible to be nominated? Is Nobu eligible for contribution to American cuisine because he was nominated, right?
Okay.
And it was interesting, the very
To hear the
sort
different
of
takes.
yeah, and everybody was very passionate and very opinionated. And I was thinking to myself, after we finished having the conversation, this would make a great theme for next year's Congress.
That you're going to have some diversity, as you always do.
Totally.
What a great theme.
And as I say, I haven't talked to my staff about this, and my staff has 99% impact on everything we do. So we'll see what people think about the idea.
Somehow I think, though, that Antoinette has some impact, too.
Oh, I definitely have impact, but we are a team. We are a team. Our editorial team, our marketing team, we are a team. Our technical team, our design team. Didn't you love the cover?
Oh, beautiful.
It was amazing.
No, it's clear that from the way things have been running here, it is a group effort, and thank you so much. We're really enjoying being here. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We're going to look forward to speaking to some more chefs here at Star Chefs' 3rd Annual Congress. Antoinette Bruno, CEO, Editor-in-Chief, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.